Today I'm making beaded bracelets using the Artistic Wire Really Big Jig. You're going to need 18, 22, and 12 gauge wire. I have my tools, beads, a round form, and the jig. The template is available in my Etsy DIY shop. So we have two different sizes for the first design. We're going to set up the jig, and I have some extra beads that I'm going to put on the pegs to make them a little bit larger. So we're going to hold the bead down and wind the wire around the bead. This is the 12 gauge aluminum wire by Beadalon, the Artistic Wire. So we're going to bring this around, and we're just going to do a zigzag formation for the base of the bracelet. So you want to hold those beads down and give the wire a little tug as you bring it around and just curve it around. Now if you only have a few beads, just lift them up as you go and move them along so we have enough to make the entire bracelet. We're going to go back and forth. And then once you've done the whole thing, we're going to get to the end there and then just wind the wire around the last peg. So that's your basic formation. And then from there, we're going to clip the end and then just curve around the other end there and clip it. So we have two little loops on either end of the bracelet. Just flatten them down with the flat pliers, and then you can just push in those curves a little bit because we want the wires adjacent to each other. So to keep the round form, you can just put a little round form in there, or you can just push them together and hold them in place like that. So that's your basic shape. Now you don't have to put beads. You can even flatten it with a hammer if you want, but if you want to put beads, we're going to attach a 22 gauge wire. This is the Artistic Wire. So just attach it on one end, holding the two wires together, pop on your bead, and then wind it around the two wires. This will help hold them together, and it'll look more fancy with the beads. So just work your way down. We're going to go one side at a time. Wind it around once to hold it in place, and then keep putting on your beads. I actually upcycled some old necklaces to get some beads, and I'm doing a little bit of a pattern. I think I used 4 different beads. And then once you get to the end, we're just going to wind it around to finish it off there, holding those last 2 wires together. We're going to bring it through and just give it a good little tug so it's nice and snug. Bring it through a second time. Really give it a good push, rotate it around, and now you could put another row of beads across the top. So going in the same manner as we did before, we're just going to take that 22 gauge wire and do one little wind around to hold the wires together and to suspend the beads in the bracelet. So once we've got to the end, we're just going to clip it. I ended up adding another bead to the last loop as well, just to have them all filled in. We're just going to pinch those ends in. So once you have them all beaded, you can wind it around a round form, or if you have a bracelet mandrel, you can use that as well. I just used a pill bottle, and you can do any little adjustments by hand. And then I'm going to make a clasp. So if you already have your own clasp, you can use that. So to make a clasp, I'm just going to bring the wire around. I have other tutorials on my channel on how to make clasps. So that's the little loop that will go on one side. Pinch that little pokey end in, and then we're going to do another loop, and that will attach to the bracelet. So we'll just slide the bracelet on there, and then finish the little circle, a little loop, hold it with the flat pliers, bring the end around, right around, give it a little tug, and clip it. So from there we can pinch in that pokey end, and then we need to do a hook. So I'm going to cut that flush, just bring in with my little round pliers, just bring in the end a little bit to make a tiny little loop, just so there's no rough edge. Get your round pliers, bring it around to make a larger loop, and bring it out and around. Sort of a half circle, and then you can hook it on the other side of the bracelet. Hold that, turn the wire around to finish the loop, bring the end around a couple of times so it's nice and secure, and then clip it flush, pinch in that little pokey end, do any little adjustments that you need, and it just hooks in there, and there you have your beaded bracelet with the clasp. There's all kinds of colors available for the 12 gauge aluminum wire from Beadalon, and you can also just leave it without beads. So this one I just did it without beads. I'm going to turn it around and just pinch it in a little bit, and you can add a clasp or not. You can just leave it plain like that, and it can just like pop on. So those are the two versions of that setup. And so with another jig setup here, we are going to start with a loop on one end, and we're going to do a kind of crisscross thing. So we're just going to push that in. Keep in mind you can also do these with 16 gauge wire. I'm using the 12 gauge aluminum wire for both of these designs. So we're going to bring the wire around and then straight up and then around the peg, and then we're going to bring it down. So alternate the wires so they are always sort of in the same position. So you're going to bring it up, give it a little tug, and then loop it around the top peg and bring it down. And then we'll do the same. So get the other wire, bring it around, bring it up, and then bring it down. So just keep crisscrossing, alternating them. And then once you get to the end, we're just going to bring the wire around that center loop, and we're going to clip it. And then we'll do the other one, bring it around, and loop it. I actually looped it the wrong direction, but you'll see on the template the exact setup. So now we're going to remove it and do any adjustments that you need to make sure the loops are a little more even. And then we're just going to add our beads. So take a 22 gauge wire, loop it around just below the loop there, and then we're going to add beads. I'm adding a little pattern, 2 small beads, 1 larger bead, and then we're going to do a slightly different pattern after that. Again, I used some old upcycled necklaces for the beads, and we're just going to attach them between the loops there. Once you get to the end, we're going to clip it and pinch in that little pokey end. I did 2 rows in the same type of pattern, and then in the center I added single larger beads just to give a little bit of variety. So attach it to one end, put a larger pearly bead, and then wind it through there, Just wind it right through to secure it in place, and we're going to do a little row of larger beads down the center. So it's a nice variety of beads. We have some pearly beads and some glass faceted beads, and just bring it right through at the end there, and we want to bring it through those 2 looped wires and then wind them together so they stay in place. And then we're going to clip the end, clip the other end, and get your flat pliers and pinch in those pokey ends. You don't want any sharp ends. So that's the basic setup. Do any little adjustment that you need, and then get your round form or your bracelet mandrel and wind it around to make it a round form. And you can adjust it so it's more oval if you like. Use your flat pliers if you need to adjust any more the wires, and there you have your beautiful beaded bracelet. You can make it with or without beads. So thanks so much for watching the video. Give it a big thumbs up if you liked it. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for lots more wire art and jewelry making videos. And if you'd like to share photos of your wire art and jewelry, be sure to join the Wire Makers Club on Facebook. And if you'd like to check out my work on Etsy, my husband and I specialize in custom wedding cake toppers and funky jewelry. I also have a mailing list, so if you'd like to sign up below, I'll send you my Wire Art Essentials ebook. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you the next time.